This is Courage Rises with Susan Jeffries, episode 12. Do you ever wish you had more courage to affect change in your life? Or wish you could harness the courage you have to move forward faster towards your goals? I believe that exhibiting courage or even being told you're courageous can be transformational. Courage is not a trait that everyone's born with, but it can be most certainly learned through practice and shifting your mindset. My hope with these interviews is that you will recognize yourself in some of the stories of everyday courage, tell yourself you're also courageous, and begin to move the needle on your own courage continuum. Let's get started. Hey everybody, it's Susan Jeffries with Courage Rises. Welcome to my interview with my very close friend and coach, Kenyatta Turner. Hi, Kenyatta.
Hi.
Why don't we start with you telling everybody just kind of who you are, what you do, how old you are, that kind of thing.
Ooh, that's a lot, but I will answer it. Hi, Suki. Thanks for having me here. I'm so excited. My name is Kenyatta Turner. I'm the founder of Freedom Empire Consulting, where I basically help my clients to build and shield their freedom empires. I do that through coaching, influencing, and protecting their businesses or their families. And what else did you ask?
I want to know where you live and how old are you?
Ooh, I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm 45.
Oh, good. 45. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I ask everybody how old they are just so that they'll see that, courage comes at all ages, old, young, and in between. Mm-hmm. So when I say the word courage, what does that mean to you? Does it make you think of anything in particular?
It makes me think of doing brave things, things that you maybe wouldn't want to do, but you have to do. So I think of the term like muster up the courage, like you hear that phrase, like muster up the courage. And I don't even know what muster means. Like, I need to look that up. Like, what does that word mean? But you hear these phrases. So I think of like that, like it's something where you need to get up the confidence and the power, the skills, the whatever to do the thing that maybe you would initially be afraid of. Mm-hmm. But you still have to do it. So it's courage that pushes you to do the thing that you would probably shy away from if you could get away with it.
Right. If you didn't have to. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So is it important to you personally to be considered courageous by other people?
I think that in my field as a coach, I would have to say yes, because I believe that if I am demonstrating that I am courageous and others who I look to hope to inspire or serve or teach, because I'm a teacher as well, then it might inspire them to be courageous as well. So I believe as far as the flip side of that, I assume that the opposite of courage might be scared or timid or not moving forward in some kind of way.
Hesitant.
Right. And I think that in my industry as a coach, like I said, as a teacher, a trainer, someone who, like I said, looks to inspire, that absolutely it's important in my industry to demonstrate courage because it can show others that they can be courageous too.
Yeah, I like that. Mm-hmm. So do you have any tips or certain ways that you implement courage in your life? Tips for people to be more courageous perhaps in their decision making?
Well, yes. And it's kind of a short answer, but I can elaborate on it, is just do it. And I didn't make up that slogan, but that's really what it is.
I think we're going to have to pay Nike now. Thanks.
Yeah, I know. Right. Thanks, Nike. But it's so true, because I think it starts initially with you having an understanding of what it is you're trying to accomplish and why. If you know what you're doing, why you're doing it, who you're doing it for, then it makes it easier to demonstrate courage to do the act. So let's say, so for instance, in my business, again, if I know that I have to let people know who I am as a coach, I have to brand myself. No one can really do that for me. So I have to put myself out there in ways that I'm not always excited about doing, but I have to do them anyway. And if you watch the things that I'm doing, you probably not even think 1 second that it took, courage for me to do that because of how I deliver the message or just who I am naturally.
Because you make it look effortless.
I make it look effortless. There you go. Right. But it takes courage. Like it literally the moment of, whew, okay, I'm gonna do this thing. All right, just do it. Like, so when I say just do it, that's what I have to tell myself, even when I don't want to do it, where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I put this out there, what's going to happen? Is someone going to buy it or not buy it, or sign up for it or not sign up for it, or like it or not like it, or whatever? You never know. So there's so many unknowns that I think that it stops us from being courageous. So, but again, I always have to go back to, I have clarity. I know what it is I'm supposed to do. I know who I'm supposed to help. I'm obligated to do it. I don't know how to not do it. So the reminder of that helps push me over the edge to where I'll do the thing. And sometimes I call it hitting the button.
Yeah.
Like, just hit the button, Kenyatta. You know, I have something written or whatever, and I'm like, okay, is it good enough? All right, hit the button. And then, so the courage to just hit the button and just walk away. Like, all right, well, button's hit. Can't do nothing about it now, right?
Yep.
So
here we go.
So, because I know that I have to show up. So whatever it is, whomever is watching out there in TV land, I like to say, who are you? Who do you need to show up for? Like, who needs you to be courageous? That should help you be courageous, because it's something bigger than you that you're doing it for. And that's usually, I think, what comes down to.
Yeah. I use that phrase, here we go. It's the same kind of thing. Instead of push the button, is like, well, here we go. And, I remember a time in my life too, where you say, you don't know what the outcome's going to be. There was a point at which, if I was going to have a relationship with the man who's currently my husband, I had to close my eyes and jump. It was just like, okay, close your eyes and jump, and just trust that, because you want it so badly and you know exactly why, you got to trust that it's going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of like pushing the button. Yeah.
Hit the button.
Yep. So do you have any stories of courage in your life, or someone close to you, that you want to share?
I mean, the one that comes to mind most easily is when I left my job working at colleges. I mean, I call it jumping off a cliff and sprouting wings. I had to have the courage to write a resignation letter and hand it in from a perfectly good job with a perfectly good salary that I'd been in that career for 20 plus years, and have no job lined up, have no business idea in my mind other than I have a bunch of old vintage clothes that I used to wear, and I still have them, and I was like, I think I'm gonna sell them on eBay. And start a business doing that. I wound up starting an Etsy store, actually, but I have tons of vintage clothes that I wore. Grew up, I started wearing vintage clothes when I was 18 years old. And I always, would go thrift store shopping and estate sale shopping, to find the things I wore. And they don't fit anymore. So anyway, I was like, I'm selling them, right? And then all of a sudden it became cool to wear vintage clothes. Like, it wasn't always cool. And then it became cool, and all these boutique stores started showing up, selling clothes that for astronomical rates that I literally would buy like a garbage bag full of for $2. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, well, let me make a profit on these clothes and start selling a store. But anyway, that was the only thing I thought I was going to do. And that was kind of really a half-baked idea. But I was at a point when I was 39 years old, and I was about to turn 39. My father died when he was 39. That's why this age is important to me. And I was 16. So I thought that 39 was old, meaning when you're 16, 39 seems old.
Yeah, it does seem old. Yeah.
When that's your dad, you're like, you're an old dude,
Well, they could be 22 and they're old because they're
right. Seriously. Right. And so I thought that was an old age, and he passed away. We lived together at the time, just he and I, and it was just a very traumatic time in my life. But as I grew older and got closer to the age of 39, I realized how young that was. Very young. And so I was approaching the age of 39. I actually took a vacation from work, which I never did. Took about 10 days off. But I took, this 10-day vacation. It was a staycation. I didn't go anywhere. I just breathed. You know, I just went to lunch with friends in the middle of the day, took my sister's kids to the jumping gym, sat under the park or in the park under a tree with my dog. I mean, I think these are things that people do when they don't work 80 hours a week, because that's what I was working for this, you know, for the school I was at. But I did a lot of thinking and soul searching during that time. And it was around the fact that I was about to hit the age that my father was when he died. And I started thinking about my life and how it looked like I was going to maybe live longer than him. I didn't think I was going to, actually, growing up. I thought I'd never live to 39 because it seems so old. But now that I'm here at this age and I felt like a young pup, literally, I mean, I built a career over 20 years running colleges. I started doing that when I was 18 years old. So I had a very successful career, seen a lot, done a lot, basically. But I just remember thinking, wow, what more would my father have done in his life if he had been given the opportunity to?
Yeah, wow,
and that's what I started thinking about. What would he have done if he lived to 40, 50, whatever? Like, what would he have done? Would he have changed jobs? Would we have moved as a family? Would we have bought a new car? Like all these just simple things, you know, that he no longer had an opportunity to experience. But then here I was, even though I couldn't answer the questions for him, I started asking the questions of myself. Kenyatta, what are you going to do? Are you going to buy a new car? Are you going to move? Are you going to go on vacation? Like, what are you doing? Are you going to keep this job that you're working and ultimately get promoted as a campus president, and which was in my sights? And then, you know, now you're going to probably get paid, well, obviously get paid more, but then I'm sure they're going to figure out a way to squeeze more hours out of you. You know,
go from 80 to 120 hours a week.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, is that what you want? Is that, you know, is this, you know, my father, I wondered, was he happy in this job that he had? Would he have left that job? Like, and then, so I'm like, are you happy, Kenyatta? Are you going to leave this job? Like, you know, so the same things I wanted to know from him, I couldn't ask. I had to turn that on myself. And I didn't like the answers I was coming up with.
Yeah.
And some of them I was unsure of. And the fact that I wasn't sure, when I'd always had a plan about what I wanted for my career and what I was going to do, that's how I got there. I designed it very meticulously. But now I'm at this point going, well, what if you don't want to be the campus director? Well, does that mean you're going to stay at this job as a director of admissions forever? You don't want a regional job necessarily. Like, so what are your options here? And then, you know, I started thinking, well, I don't even think A, I'm happy anymore. B, I want to be here anymore. C, I know I'm built for more and I can help people in another way. Like, I know I can do more. Wow. But I'm here.
That statement in and of itself is very brave.
Like, yeah, like I know I can do more. I know that I felt like things had run their course. And then once the idea got in my head, I couldn't get it out. And here's what I realized. And this is what changed everything. And this is where the courage, I think, really comes from, because I realized that, all right, look, Kenyatta, if it looks like you're going to make it past 39, you are then now gifted what I call my extra.
Your bonus years.
Bonus years. I call it my extra innings. You got extra innings. What are you going to do with them that your father didn't get a chance to do with his, that he didn't get? So does that mean you're going to sit here in this job not knowing that you don't know if you should be here anymore? Or are you, you know, are you going to squander them? I use the word squander. Like, I feel like I'm squandering these years if I don't live my best life and fullest life in that. So I realized in order to do that, I had to quit my job. That was my solution. Quit your job, get out of here, you know, because once the idea got in my head, I couldn't sit still.
Yeah. And then your gut told you had to do it. You had to do it.
My skin crawled. I went from working those 80 hours, like I would walk in the building at like 7 a.m. usually and leave at like 7 or 8. That was normal for me on a day-to-day basis. And I loved it.
Because you loved what you were doing.
I loved what I was doing until this idea got in my head. Oh my God. I would show up at 8 and be walking out at like 4:45. And because I couldn't be there anymore. I couldn't stand to be there anymore.
Stomach it. Yeah.
People, all, you know, my staff and my boss, they're like, where are you going? And I'm like, you only pay me for 8 to 5. I'm leaving, you know, because I was salary, right?
Time's up.
Yeah, when your salary, you just work, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my home and everything, and it happened like literally from, I think my birthday was the beginning of April 5th. And then I had quit by like May 7th or something.
Wow, that's fast.
Like it was a very short, because okay, again, those of you who are listening, when something happens to you and you have something inside of you that is telling you what you're supposed to do, even though you don't know the how, but what it is that you need, like that why, that who, that what, whatever it is you call it, like you can try to ignore it all you want, but it's coming for you. Like it's coming for you. Yeah. So as long as you try to ignore it and act like you don't hear this voice, this other self, Napoleon Hill calls it, as long as you don't hear it, I don't hear you, other voice, you know, it's coming for you. And so it came for me, and I couldn't do anything but realize you got to get out of here. Because here's what I realized is that as soon as the passion was gone and I had this new vision of a life beyond, ooh, that's kind of a rhyme. I had to go after it, and I was willing to jump off that cliff back to the courage with no parachute. And I luckily sprouted wings, meaning I didn't crash to the ground and burn, right? Yep, there was times when I came real close though. Real close. Because that's not a good idea.
It gets scary and you think you have to go find another job. Yeah,
that's not smart. It's not smart to do what I did. I'm not saying, listen, those who listen, I did not tell you to quit your job, okay? I just told you what I did, but I knew I wanted to start a business because I had an idea of, and actually it was my mother. She wasn't the idea that I had, but I thought of her because she's always been an entrepreneur. My dad always had a jobby job, I call it. My mom has always worked for herself. So as I'm looking at these two sides of my own story, it's like I followed my father's footsteps first, meaning I went to school just like he did, got a job, did the jobby job thing for many years. I always saw her being an entrepreneur, but it's interesting. What I viewed what she was doing was she definitely supported us in that and always was doing whatever she wanted. But I almost viewed that as instability. Compared to the job, which seemed to bring stability in some sort of way.
I think that's a kind of a family culture thing, and even just a cultural thing. I mean, think people your age, you're quite a bit younger than me, but and my age, it's like that's what you do. You go out, you go to school, you get a job, jobby job. Otherwise, you're not doing your part.
Yeah. So what she was like, I didn't understand that. You know, I saw it. I grew up with it. I had to help her with her businesses, you know, putting labels on oil bottle because she sold oil and incense and fashion and clothes. So I've probably folded countless red House of Myasia brochures, put countless labels on bottles. You know, I mean, she had us helping her with her business. So I also think that was part of my aversion to it as well. Is because I was forced to work for her
for free.
You know what I mean? For free. So part of it was like, well, no, I don't get that. I just go to work and I do this. But here's the thing. I loved what I did. There was no question I was not in the right field. From day one, I knew I was where I belonged. So there was no regrets there. Not one. It shaped me into who I am today. So, but I realized when I didn't want to do it anymore, I couldn't do it. I couldn't fake it.
Yeah. Couldn't
get my skin crawled.
Yeah.
So I was like, call my mom, I think I got to quit my job. I want to start a business because I saw enough people who had businesses to go, well, how they get a bit, every little business, every big business started out a small business.
If they can do it, I can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm smart. I can figure this out. And my mom does it. Hey, she can teach me whatever. So I called her up and I said, hey mom, I think I'm going to quit my job. I'm freaking out. Something happened. Something snapped in my brain. I don't know what it is, but I got to get out of here. And I need to talk to you. And I'm like, going to quit. She goes, well, it's about time. She's like, I was just waiting for you to figure it out. And I'm like,
holy
what?
Cow.
She's like, yeah. She's like, I knew you would leave that place. You would leave that eventually. She's like, I know you. And she's like, it was just a matter of time. She goes, so congratulations. And, so what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So I had no opposition from her.
Well, that's wonderful. That's so lucky for you. You know, it's a gift.
Yes. So she was very encouraging, and supportive. And, I was like, well, I got some money, little money in the bank. You know, I got a house, I got a car, a dog. Guess I'm gonna quit. So I handed in my notice. So that's where courage came in, because I knew something that I couldn't explain to anyone else. And I didn't have to. But I knew something in my own heart and soul that drove me to do something very courageous, which is walk away from a perfectly good job to go out and start a business, not even knowing what your business would be.
And seemingly a great job. I mean, you were making a very good living. You were admired in your field. You were on your way up still.
Yes. I got out. I left at a high point. You know what I'm saying? Like I left at, which is shocking because most people, that's not when they leave, right?
Right. They leave when you're down. Yeah.
Yes. I left at a high point. Me and my band did that too. We were like at a very, like a high point in our, music, whatever. And that's when we decided to take our hiatus, we call it. So we're still technically on hiatus. We never said we broke up, so we left on a hiatus, right? At a high point in our career as a musician or the band. And that's kind of what I did, because again, I was poised to become a campus director or campus president, which I had worked my whole career for. So I literally walked away at the point when I could have had the thing that would have been the pinnacle, if you would consider, of my career.
Yeah.
It would have been the top, to have my own campus. I thought that's what I wanted. But so now, jumping off the cliff, and then it was one courageous act after another after that.
It must have been.
It was the continuum you talk about, right? It really, and some things just showed up because I just had to do it, not even thinking about whether it was courageous or not, but having to figure out how to live with now no job. And here's something interesting too, that I thought about it. I said, look, Kenyatta, if you quit this job and go out to be a business owner, whatever that means, and you can't do it for whatever that means, whatever can't do it means, okay? Then worst case scenario, you go get another job. I mean, that's really how I thought about it. And then I said to myself, and if you can't get another job, then what the hell was all this for?
Yeah.
What was 2 degrees and 20 years of corporate executive leadership for, if you can't go get another job? That should be a lesson right there. You know what I mean? Like, so you have all this experience and education, which is what we tell people to go out and do and get, so that they can always have employment. So worst case scenario, you go get another job and you cut your losses and you're like, whatever. And here's the thing. I even looked, Suki, before I left that job. I said, well, maybe it isn't that you don't want to leave this job, or no, you don't want to leave. Like, you want to leave this for-profit education system, because that's where I worked. Maybe you want to go work like at a public school, like ASU. Maybe you want to go work at a different type of college. Maybe that's what is the difference, because I'd never done that. I'd always worked at private for-profit education. I'd never been at, public schools. Yeah. So I'm like, maybe that's what you're missing. So I started looking at job descriptions, right, at ASU, U of A, all the big colleges, seeing what would I be qualified for and what kind of positions are open and the salaries and everything. Well, here's what I saw. I could absolutely do any of those jobs. And the pay was good. I could apply for any of them, in my opinion, and got them. But as I'm reading the descriptions, I'm still going,
that's not what I want to do.
I don't want to do this anymore. This just looks like more red tape at some new school. You know what I mean? This just looks like more.
It's a different color red.
Right. I'm like, I don't think so. So that's when I also kind of realized that I was done, because those other positions in 2 years earlier in my life would have been very exciting.
Sure.
And, but I was looking at them like, I don't ever want to do that again. So I realized something had changed. So I would say another thing that is courageous about this story is that having the courage to realize that you've changed.
Yes.
And to accept it.
That is very interesting, having the courage to realize that you've changed.
Yep. And that's just not in business, that's in life, that's in relationships. I believe, there's relationships and things I've been in where change occurred. And I think that it takes courage to acknowledge that change and to not pretend that the change hasn't happened.
Yes.
And ignore it, because I couldn't have done that. Well,
but you'd be.
I couldn't have done it, but because I couldn't physically do it, but people do it all the time.
They do it all.
You know what I mean?
All the time.
They're like, and they just stay in that whatever that is. So the courage to leave, and be your own catalyst for that, because I could, like I said, nothing was making me leave.
Sure.
So I created my own catalyst and left, and had to realize, Kenyatta, you have changed. This is no longer your happy place.
Yeah.
This is no longer suited to you, and you have to go. And so therefore I'm really glad that I did. My mom called me 6 weeks later, said, hey, let's go to lunch. I'm going to go to lunch with this networking meeting that she goes to. And she's been going to it for probably 15 years. They meet for lunch once a month. And I remember literally I said to her, what do you mean go to lunch? I go, what do you ladies do? A bunch of old ladies sitting around, drinking, eating lunch or whatever. She's like, Kenyatta, those bunch of old ladies, we're all business owners. And I'm like, really? So the group is called WISC, Women I Should Know. They still meet today.
Oh my God.
What
a great name.
Yeah, WISC, Women I Should Know. Joyce runs this meeting. She's running for, it might be 20 years by now. It's probably 20 years, because it's 6.5 years ago. The story I'm telling those of you who are listening, this happened 6.5 years ago when I left my job. It was May of 2014. Yeah. So WISC still meets today. So they're definitely met the 20-year mark. But that was my first meeting, going to a networking meeting to sit around and do what we do at networking meetings, right? But I didn't know it. How would I know that world? I had a job. I was at a job. I was not at lunch networking on a Monday at 11 o'clock, which is what it was. Because she called me up. She's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I wake up some days, Suki, in tears after I quit my job, because I had no idea what I was doing.
I'm sure. And how am I going to pay my rent? And this can't continue like that. I can't wake up every day crying.
And then some days I wake up like free. Oh, yeah. Freedom. Yeah. That's what I left for, to build my empire. That's what I told everyone. I'm leaving to build my empire. My boss, my coworkers, they're like, what is an empire? I'm like, I don't know. But I felt like
I'm going to build it.
Here's what I felt like. I realized that I had been helping the schools I worked for build their empires, because I was so good at what I did. I would bring students in, which brought revenue in, and then I would retain them, right? And I was good at it. So I felt like I had helped these organizations like become very successful and very profitable based on how I did my job.
Right.
And so I had this idea, well, I want to build an empire. Can I have that? And that's literally what I told everyone I was going to go do when I left. And they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, I don't know, but you wait. I had faith that there was something out there for me. So my mom took me to a networking meeting, introduced me to Donna Sparacco.
Oh, okay.
Donna was at that meeting.
Yep, I know Donna. Donna was an interviewee on Courage Rises.
Was the fantastic Donna is such an inspiration to me.
Yeah, she's a dynamo.
Oozes courage and power. And joy. And I couldn't, I've just been blessed truly through that connection with her, because it changed my life forever. It really, truly did. And she is part of that. Her courage, helped inspire me during times when I needed to be courageous. I didn't know anything about Legal Shield and how to build a business. And, but I saw the framework and I was like, I think I can build an empire doing this. Like I saw it, but I didn't know anything about, I had a job for 20 years, you know?
Yeah.
So the courage I know this is a long story, but I think as I speak it out loud, it is a continuum, like you say.
It is a continuum. I love to talk about the continuum, and I love the idea that you met Donna, and that brought you to the next step, which brought you to the next step, which brings you to the next step, and eventually, that continuum is one where you don't really see the little changes, but you look back after a period of time and say, look how far I've come. Oh my goodness! And of course, it never ends. It just keeps going, but you kind of take stock along the way. And, I kind of feel like that with me. You have actually been a big part of my Courage Continuum as I was learning from you as a coach in our group coaching masterminds and that sort of thing, has made me look at life and what I want to do now in a completely 1000% different direction, you know?
Yes, because you're having, I think a lot of times I get inspired by you as well, because I see you having these moments, you know, where I'm like, ooh, she's having one of those moments I had, you know what I mean? I can see, and it's scary.
It is.
It's scary. It truly is. So those of you listening, you're hearing this story, and if you think for 1 second that there isn't fear involved in this, there is. But I believe the courage is doing the thing even though you're fearful.
Yeah. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah, the fear doesn't just go away. You just don't wake up one morning and you're like, I'm not afraid. However, very importantly is to note is that fear, how does it say? Oh, fear and faith cannot occupy the same space. Can't occupy the same space.
They try. Oh boy, they sure fight in my head.
they try, right? You can't have like absolute fear about doing that thing and still have faith that it's going to work. You got to give in to one or the other. They cannot happen at the same time. So I think that courage may take place like at that moment when it shifts from fear to faith. You know, at that very moment, that's when the courage happens. I think.
Well, that's when you have the most clarity too, right?
That's when you have the most clarity.
Yeah.
Because again, I was fearful of leaving my job, right?
Until you weren't.
But I had to have faith that I could still survive if I left. So the fear couldn't live in that same space. One of them had to go. Yeah. And faith won.
I like that.
Fear left. And it was the moment of courage going, all right, I'm at that moment. Fear's gone. Faith is ahead. The courage is, here's my resignation letter, Kevin. That was my boss at the time. He and I worked here for like 20 years. He's all, I think you lost your mind.
The mind, your ever-loving mind. Yeah.
I'm like, I probably did. But you know what? I'm going to go find it. Because I got to get out of here, man. Yeah. You know? And you know, there was a time, and I don't know if you know this or not, but and again, courage came into place again. So I wound up going back to work as a director of admissions after I had started my legal show business.
Oh, okay.
For a very short spell.
Back to the same place?
Nope, not the same place, but with my same boss.
Okay.
My same boss I quit on.
Yeah, he quit and then took you with him.
He called me after I quit. You know, hey, Kenyatta, I really need your help. You know, I would love for you to come work with me at the school. And I'd already started Legal Shield. And I'm like, dude, that sounds like a job again. I'm not interested in that. I'm doing Legal Shield, you know, like I was trying to talk him out of it. Quite honestly.
Right.
I was like, if I come at it like this, there's no way.
Yeah.
I remember having an interview with my boss's boss's boss. And I feel like I sat there and said everything that you should never say in an interview. Everything you should never. I train people to interview. I did that at DeVry. I think I sat down and did everything I could not to get hired because I didn't want to go back.
The job,
and they hired me, and I was like, dang it, you know. So I've never been so unhappy to get a job in my life. You know? Unhappy to get a well-paying job in my whole life. You know. So I went back, and I lasted 3 months. 3 months.
Got him started, and then you had to go.
I lasted 3 months as a director of admissions, and I realized, again, the courage to realize you changed. I had changed so much that I could not do the job. I was no good to myself. I was definitely no good to my team. I was no good to the students. It was my job to serve. I had my belief level had changed completely about many things about the educational system as it stands and the different ways that things are done. I had different ideas about, like it was wild because, and here's the thing, I thought I could fake it.
Yeah.
Like I thought, well, you just go in there and do your job and collect your check and bounce, girl. Go get that check. I couldn't do it. How I'm wired. Again, we talk about congruency.
Yes.
Right. We talk about who you are and at your core, what you believe in and what you're willing to stand for. And I am congruent through and through. Yeah. Even to the tune of you keep your money.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this anymore because it doesn't make sense, you know? And so a lot of things changes. School started shutting down. Students were showing up to class and their you know, not at our campus, but doors were closed. All kinds of things were happening where I was like, I realized I was actually bad at my job. I couldn't do it. And I had to go back to the same.
And it's hard when you're an achiever to be bad at your job. You just, you feel terrible every single day.
Yeah. Because in order to be good at my job, I would have had to lie to myself and I would have had to lie to my team to teach them. I would have to lie to teach them to do what they needed to do to get students to do our job, which is enroll students in our school. And I realized, no. I'd never have, and I never would. And again, I had so much other thoughts in my mind about how I wanted to create this empire, and this wasn't helping me get it done.
Right.
If anything, it was wasting my time. So I had to leave, and I went to my boss again, and I was like,
here I am again.
I can't do this again. And I know he was just like, what, you know, but we've known each other a long time. And I know he understood as best as he could understand, but he'd known me to be someone who is nothing but honest and with integrity and ethics. And if I'm coming to you saying this,
it's for real.
It's for real. And there's some other director of missions out there that needs this job that is be more than happy to have it. And I need to open up the universe for them. And I don't belong here anymore. So again, the courage at that moment, you know, I could have stayed if I could have forced myself to stay, but I'm not forcing myself to do anything. And that's another nugget for those of you listening. Don't square peg, round hole it.
Yeah.
That's a square peg, round hole situation right there. Because I could have stayed at that job and collected that paycheck and I would have been miserable.
Yeah.
So those of you thinking how miserable you are, you're doing that to yourself, by the way, because you could leave. Okay.
Yeah. You're the only one who can decide. You're the only one who can make a change.
Yeah.
And, you know, I did square peg, round hole it for quite a while. I became an entrepreneur about 20 years ago for the first time. I got very excited about mosaic art, and I ended up buying my supplier's business and becoming a supplier for the mosaic art community in the United States. And it was very exciting. And at the time, mosaic art was very small and there were maybe 3 sellers, you know, and so I was kind of a big deal, or that company, I should say, was a big deal. And I loved it. And then I ended up going back to corporate work because our youngest daughter was going to go to a very expensive school, and we wanted our kids to come out of college without any debt. And so, you know, I'm like, yep, I'm going to sell the business and go back to work to my job in corporate technology. And I had a chip on my shoulder from the day I went back to the day I retired. The entire time. And it just got worse and worse, you know, and I didn't at the time have the courage, or I guess that's not true. We had a financial plan that we wanted to meet. And so that was enough for me for a family goal, right? To meet a particular plan. But as soon as I wasn't needed, my income wasn't needed anymore. I was out of there. I was out of there in 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Mike said, you know, we sold this house, we paid off this house, you know, we don't need your money for mortgage anymore. I said, I'm done. And I've been so happy ever since.
Even scrappy, yeah, right? And here's the thing, you know, people have asked me, Kenyatta, all that money you left behind and whatever. And I'm like, look, man, I'll make it my own way. You know what I mean? My freedom is way more important to me than anything else. And I can create my freedom empire, which is what my business is called, in my own way. That's more important to me than anything, is living and walking in my greatness, my congruency, and what I know I'm built to be doing. And oh my gosh, the different ways that I can help affect the world, doing what I want to do. That's what's most important to me. And I really think, and going back to the story with my dad, is that's what I meant by not squandering my extra years, because I learned in that moment that no, Kenyatta, you will only do what you want to do. That's all you get to do now, is what you want to do and what's best, that you believe is in the best interest with this extra time that you've been given. Because if you're living by someone else's standards or this or that, and you're not happy with that, like, okay, it's fine to live by them and be happy with it. But if you're not happy with it, then don't do it, girl. Like, no. And so the courage to say no, right? What I say, the good and great ideas, you know?
Yes.
Like
courage to say no to good and great ideas
that are not yours. That is courageous to do that, because it's so easy to just say yes because you feel like that's what you're supposed to do, or you're fearful of how rough your life might be if you don't, you know what I mean? Or because seriously, I didn't know how I was going to survive. There was times where I was like, oh my God, but I was prepared to live in my car if I had to.
I'm glad you didn't have to.
I'm still prepared to do that if I have to, quite honestly. That doesn't change because I know what I'm supposed to do. So I'll go through the ups and downs and I'll struggle and whatever, but you could be struggling at your job too. You know, so pick your struggle. Really, that's what it comes down to. So have the courage to pick your struggle and let it be your choice, not someone else's. And that's kind of, you know, I should probably stop talking because, you know me, I get all fired up, you know what I mean? Because I realize these things I'm telling everyone else, I tell myself every day.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not speaking anything that I don't put in practice on a daily basis or work very hard to do to live my life of fulfillment and help others along the way as I do that. So that's courage.
I believe that I because, you know, you and I have been friends for probably a year and a half now, and I've never felt any authenticity from you. It's like, I say what I mean what I say. I'm not, you know, I'm going to say yes to the things that serve me and no to the things that don't, you know, it's a very congruous way to live.
Yes.
So, yes.
And I'm happy.
Yes. Good. Well, I love your big, brave story. I wonder if I would have had the courage to jump out of my corporate job with nothing that I was going to, like not a business in mind or whatever. So, you know, kudos to you for taking the leap and finding your passion.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
It took a while. Doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't.
It was probably about 5 years in when I realized that Freedom Empire was going to, where it really clicked. You know what I mean? Like, and actually it was less than 5 years, but I was hitting that mark because I'd been teaching at the college, realizing, wait, you're a coach, Kenyatta. What, you've been doing this your whole life. Why that? There's like a job in that, you know? It took me years to realize that that's really what Freedom Empire was about.
Yeah.
I've been doing it, but not doing it. So for those of you listening, you know, the process of self-awareness in such a way to realize how you have to do trial and error. It takes courage to experiment, you know, and you're doing some of that right now as well, Suki, you know, you're trying this to go, okay, does that work for me? Maybe not this and that. Like, to be experimental takes courage, I think. Because everything might not work.
Yeah.
And there's power in that, you know.
There is power in that. You know, I did a LinkedIn thing on the power of practice, and it was about curiosity and experimentation. And I was talking about, you know, science class, you do the experiments and they don't always work out, but every single time you learn something. Every time. You know, and
you learn what not to do. Oh, don't do that.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people get caught up in the lack of courage, and I'm not going to start it because I don't think I'll be good at it. And it's like, no, you just have to experiment. You have to be curious. You have to, you know, figure it out, learn as you go. So I think it's so much more important to have a growth approach to that than a perfectionist approach.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset, right? The growth mindset says, well, I don't know how to do it, but I could probably figure it out. Fixed mindset's like, oh no, I'm not even trying. You know, and so I think that's really important. And being someone who's always had a growth mindset, I think, again, that's where I probably had the idea, like, well, I don't have a job or a business, but I'll figure it out.
I know I can figure it out. Yeah.
I know I can figure it out. And worst case scenario, I go back and get another job. I mean, that was my backup plan.
Everybody needs a plan X, right?
And then when I tried to go get another job, I realized, okay, that's not even a good plan for me.
Need to come up with another one.
I better build my business. You know what I mean? I better
get a comfortable car.
Yeah, exactly. I better have a comfortable car I got my little SUV. I can sleep in the back if I gotta. Stella can be back there with me. We both can fit.
So
you know what I mean? And you know, but other than that, you know, put your energies towards your dream. And that's really where I had to be very firm in that, going, okay, I need to put my energy If I was going to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week for somebody else, what would happen if I worked 60, 70, 80 hours a week for me?
Yeah.
Put my energy towards my dream.
Yep.
And that's, again, takes courage.
It does. It does.
So
Well, I loved your story, and thank you so much for spending this time with me on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Of course. With the
I
sun
always,
shining through. I'm like a few minutes from the sun, like blinding me. So
I know. I'm gonna release you from your obligation so you can go hang out in the sun for a while if you want to.
Absolutely.
So thank you, my friend, my coach. I'm just so grateful that you're in my life, and I'm so happy to have interviewed you for my show, as I call it.
I'm excited. Well, can I just say how proud I am of you?
Oh, you're sweet.
I'm honored to be your coach. I'm honored to be your friend. And I love watching you grow and your courage rise as you are now even doing something that you were not doing at all when we talked before.
I had no idea that this was going to be, that I was going to be doing this for sure.
But this is amazing, watching you grow and develop into who you are becoming, because not only for your own sake, for you and your family, but for so many people you're going to touch along the way.
And it's making me so happy.
Yeah. See, I'm thrilled. So I'm very proud, very honored and humbled, to be working with you, and you're a wonderful student. So
thank you, Kenyatta. Okay. Kenyatta Turner with Courage Rises with Susan Jeffries. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. This has been Courage Rises with Susan Jeffries. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you recognized yourself in some of the courageous actions and thoughts of my guest. If you want to get notified of new episodes, please go to YouTube to the Courage Rises channel, like this episode, and subscribe to my channel. Never forget that courage can be learned through practice and shifting your mindset. If you have a story of courage to tell, or you're immersed in this subject matter, or if you'd like to learn more about moving the needle on your own courage continuum, you can email me at susan@couragerises.life. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.